Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chapter 11, Managing Brands and Products, or Managing Products and Brands. Okay, so in Chapter 11 here, we look at the concept of the product life cycle, and we look at things that marketing managers can do to manage a product through its life cycle. And as part of that, we look at the concept of branding and different branding strategies, and then finally, role of packaging, labeling, and warranties in the marketing of a product. So before we kind of move into this chapter, I'm just going to backtrack to sort of the context of this topic. So products and brands, in Chapter 11 here, we're looking at managing products and brands. And you'll recall way back in Chapter 5, we looked at the consumer purchase decision process, problem identification, information search, evaluation of alternatives, solutions to a problem, making the purchase decision, and then finally having this post-purchase behavior. And we said there were different influences on that purchasing process. And way back in Chapter 5, we looked at situational influences and psychological influences and social cultural influences. And then we left the marketing mix influences to the second half of the book. So these marketing mix influences, they're covered in Chapters 10 through 18. So we're in Chapter 11. And when we speak about a product having a brand, the brand name or the brand logo, it's part of the product features. But it's actually, it's an interesting a topic, because the brand that a product has, it's a product feature, but it's also a consequence of the promotional activities of the marketer. So we'll see this in this chapter, that although brands are a product of the property includes the meaning of the brand in the minds of consumers. And so that's what a lot of branding activity is aimed at, is trying to influence the meaning of the brand in the minds of consumers. And it seems to me that if you are not yet convinced that marketing is a very sophisticated activity, then my sense is by the end of this chapter, you'll probably be more persuaded that marketing is very sophisticated, because branding is a complex and challenging area of marketing, but it's also very interesting, because lots of us are very familiar with lots of these consumer brands. Anyways, it's an interesting chapter, but it's also a very sophisticated area of marketing. Okay, so back to the chapter. Okay, so I'm going to skip over a bit here. Okay, so the first part deals with the product life cycle. Oh, there we go, right there. Okay, so we draw an analogy between products having a life cycle with the life cycle of living things. And so we divide our lives up into getting born, growing up, growing old, and then passing away. And so we can draw the same kind of analogous life cycle for products. So on this slide here, we just really want to, for the moment, we just want to look at the top half. And so when we speak about the product life cycle, we look at the some financial characteristics of the product throughout its life. And the financial characteristics that we look at are total sales and total profits for the industry as a whole. So we're looking at sort of the product class or the product category, and how much sales it generates and how much profit it generates at different stages of the life cycle. So in this initial stage, the introductory stage, as we would guess, you get a new product coming into the market, and so sales are very low. They sort of ramp up. Initially, profitability is negative, and as time goes on, industry profits grow somewhat. And then in the second stage, sales increase rapidly and profitability reaches a maximum. And then in the third stage, the mature stage, sales kind of plateau. They don't go anywhere, and industry profitability might start to decline because you've got more and more competitors coming into the field. So way back in the first stage here, when a new product is invented, you might only have one or two competitors. You know, like in the electric car market, we have just a couple of big electric car manufacturers today. And then maybe in a few years, the electric vehicle market will start growing quite rapidly. So sales will increase, they'll make more money, more and more competitors will come into the industry. And then, you know, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, the industry will become mature and there's more and more price competition. So yes, sales stay high, but profitability declines because of increased competition. And then finally, you have the decline stage where the product becomes obsolete. You know, maybe in 50 years from now, automobiles will be obsolete because we'll have flying drones that'll carry us around or something like that. And then so sales of even electric automobiles will drop off, and profitability will drop off as well. Okay, so that's the concept of the product life cycle. And then so in these different stages of the product life cycle, marketers can tweak their marketing program to correspond to these different stages. So that's what we're going to look at. So actually, you know, I think I'll leave this slide here instead of moving on to the next slide, because the next slide really just has these, The next slide really just has the titles of these different topics. So I think I'll go back to the little slide of the picture. But now we'll look at the bottom half of the slide. So here we have the four product stages of the product life cycle: A, B, C, D. So introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. And that corresponds to these four columns in the bottom half of the page. That kind of maps out changes in the marketing mix: product, price, place, and promotion. Changes in the or different features of the marketing mix that marketers use at the different stages of the life cycle. So when a new product is invented, you know, like I think the book's example are something like space tourism, for example, or these electric vehicles. We're still at the introductory stage, and so marketers are concerned about creating awareness for the product class as a whole, rather than trying to sell their individual product. Yes, they're trying to sell their individual product, but they're trying to get people to buy into this new concept. You know, and a good example of that is electric vehicles. The big electric vehicle producer today is Tesla, and you may have heard that Apple is also researching electric vehicles. And Tesla says, you know, they welcome Apple to produce electric vehicles because he says that'll help get the market familiar with the concept, because Apple's got a big brand name, and it's positive. Tesla says it's positive for Apple to enter this industry to help create awareness of the product in people's minds. Okay, so in the introductory stage, advertising is aimed at there's a lot of money spent on advertising in the introductory stage, and the advertising is spent to stimulate demand for the product class. And we have a couple of different pricing strategies that are used in the introductory stage. We either have a so-called skimming price strategy, so the price for the product is set very high, and so that allows the vendors to recover their research and development costs, their R&D costs. Alternatively, they might also set the price very low, because if the product is competing against other types of products, then the only way they're going to get market share, or not the only way, but one of the ways they try to get market share is by having a low price. Um, I have a feeling today these electric vehicles of Tesla, they're really using more of a skimming strategy because they're luxury vehicles and they're quite a bit more expensive than ordinary vehicles today. But that might change down the road. Okay, so in the second stage of the product life cycle, the growth stage, uh, marketers, because more and more competitors come into the market, marketers try to emphasize their points of difference about their product. They do more comparison type advertising against competing products. And the growth in this stage is fueled by more consumers buying the product, but also repeat purchases by previously established customers. And so sales and profitability are on the upswing. Okay, then in the third phase, the maturity stage, there's fewer new buyers entering the market because um, they've already entered the market, and most of the buying at this stage is repeat buying. So I'm thinking, for example, that some good examples of products in the maturity stage would be things like milk and bread. Um, we're probably not drinking a whole lot more milk per capita uh, than earlier. Um, and so there's fewer new competitors coming into the market, and companies are more concerned about protecting their market share. Um, and marketing expenditures might actually decline because they're gaining efficiency. They've already gained efficiencies in distribution. And then finally, in the mature stage, there's a couple things the marketers can do. One is they can simply delete the product from their product lineup, so simply stop producing that product and stop selling it. Or they can use a harvesting strategy, which means they kind of eliminate all advertising, but they just sort of treat the product as a cash cow um, without doing any more promotion. So when you think about products at the end of the product life cycle, I think a good example of this is the old-fashioned televisions. The old-fashioned televisions, as you recall, they had those big tubes in them, and those were called CRT TVs. They're cathode ray tube TVs. And I've got a little chart here that shows this. Oops. Oops. Okay. Oh, there it is right there. It's not a very clear chart, but so in these are sales by TV type between 2006 and 2015, and the cathode ray TVs, the old tube TVs, we can see have been in a steady down trend. And so this is the decline stage of the cathode ray tube TV, and they're being replaced by higher tech TVs. So the black here is the LCD TVs, which it looks like it's almost at the maturity point because it's had strong growth for a few years. Anyway, so we can see sort of the start of the product life cycle for LCD TVs in the black, and we see the end of the product life cycle for the old cathode ray tube TVs in the blue. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so that's okay. Let's see that. Okay. So when we talk about the product life cycle, we just drew a little diagram there showing that there's growth, maturity, and then decline. So we have different characteristics of this, or different features of this product life cycle. So one feature of the product life cycle is the duration or the length of the cycle in terms of time. So some products have a very short life cycle, fad type products, and other products have very long life cycles. So I would certainly think that products like milk and bread have very, very long life cycles. Maybe they last hundreds of years. But if we have a product that's based on a technology or high technology, then the product life cycle is probably going to be fairly short. So good examples of products with short life cycles are things like cell phones. You know, probably cell phones, the old-fashioned non-smart cell phones are probably obsolete today, although they're still selling in some parts of the world. And of course, they've been replaced by the smartphones that are really miniature computers, because you can surf the web and take pictures and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So there's three more characteristics of the product life cycle that we're going to look at. We're going to look at the shape of the product life cycle, actually the product level. I'm not actually going to look at that one. And then this final one, it's the diffusion of, or it's the adoption rate. It's the adoption rate of products by consumers through the life cycle. And so this is based on this concept of diffusion of innovation process, which we'll come to in a minute. Okay, so now we're going to look at the second feature of product life cycle, and that's the shape of the life cycle. Okay, so we know from, I can't remember which chapter it was in, when you have a new product, some new products are so-called high learning products, and it takes a long time to learn how to use them. And so these products, it takes a long time, it takes a relatively long time for the product to hit the mature stage. And then we have other products that are very easy to use, or new products that are very easy to use, and it takes a very short time for the product to hit the mature stage. And then we have so-called fashion products. So these are products that kind of come in and out of popularity. And I was trying to find some examples of fashion products. I mean, it's probably fairly common in clothing, but I was trying to find an example of a fashion product, and I think a good example is actually hula hoops. I mean, I guess hula hoops today, I think, are used more for exercise purposes. But you know, when I was a kid, hula hoops were used for by kids. It was just a toy. So here's an example of this lady. She set the Guinness Book of World Records hula hooping 160 hula hoops. Okay, and then the other kind of product we have is a fad product, and fad products have a very short lifespan, and there's no end of these types of products. And so I was trying to think of a good example of a fad product. So I have an example of a product that I think is going to be a fad product. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be a fad product. And you may have heard about this late last year. I remember reading an article late last year about the most popular books sold by Amazon. And I was quite surprised to learn that one of the most popular books sold by Amazon is adult coloring books. And I couldn't believe it. But coloring books are an immensely popular product with Amazon. And because it's used as a form of therapy. I think it's like stress release therapy. I should have shut my phone off. Anyways, it'll go away in here in a minute. So I got some examples of some of these coloring books. They're oops. Oh, okay. So this is from December This is end of December 2015. 9 of the most popular books on Amazon are adult coloring books. So here they are. Whoops. Hard to believe. It's really hard to believe. Okay, so adult coloring books. So coloring books featuring. Anyways, this is. I guess this is one of the coloring books. Anyways, you'll see some more here. Whoops. Okay, so here's the secret. Here's the secret garden. Here's the secret garden coloring book for adults. So it's a big seller. And then we have. Oops. Better not click that. Then we have 40 animal patterns to color. So I guess you got pictures of lions and whatnot that you get to color. Okay, I got a few more here. Okay, the Enchanted Forest. Geez, I think I got to get this one. Maybe this will be my new hobby, taking up adult coloring. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's number 7. Oh, and here's the Lost Ocean. I think this one's going to become a collector's item. No, I mean this is for adults. I think I got to get this one myself. Okay, so those are all the coloring books that I have. Anyway, so my prediction is that adult coloring books is probably just a fad, and it probably won't be around too much longer, because I just don't believe that adults are going to. I think most people kind of satisfy their urge to color when they're about 4 years old. But anyways, I'm obviously, I could be wrong. We'll wait and see. But I think that's going to be a fad product. Okay, so the next concept related to the product life cycle is the rate at which consumers in the market adopt new products. So it's called this diffusion of innovation. And we know that different consumers in the marketplace adopt new products at different times during the product life cycle. And so we have these 5 stages of. I'm going to just change colors here. I'm going to go pink. Don't like pink, but what the heck, I'll go for it anyways. So we have these 5 stages, and we have these of the diffusion of innovation, and we have these 5 types of consumers across the product life cycle. So at the introductory stage of a new product in the market, we have these so-called innovators, and they comprise about 2.5% of the market. So these are people that are willing to experiment with new products. There's some new idea that sounds appealing to them, so they go out and they give it a try. And then that's followed by the so-called early adopters, which is about 13.5%, 14% of the total population. And so part of the concept of the diffusion of innovation is that we emulate the consumption patterns of other people in society that we kind of keep our eye on. And so in this product life cycle here, and this diffusion of innovation, the people to the right keep their eye on the consumption patterns of the people to the left. So the early adopters, they like to see what the innovators consume. The early majority, they like to see what the early adopters consume. The late majority looks to see what the early adopters or the early majority consume. And then finally you have the laggards. They like to see what the late majority has consumed. So everybody to the left serves as a role model to the people to the right. Left as role model for people to the right. And so what this does to marketers is, since they want to have lots of people adopt this new technology, they tend to spend a lot of promotional effort and promotional money on trying to get these innovators and early adopters to start using their product, because the majority of the rest of the market looks in that direction for leadership for what they should buy. And we came across that concept of opinion leaders way back in chapter 5. Okay, so another influence on marketers from this product life cycle and this diffusion of innovation is that in order to overcome resistance to buying new products, So marketers want to kind of get to this stage here so that the majority will start consuming their product on a regular basis. So in order to overcome the reluctance of the majority of people to adopt new products, marketers come up with product features to reduce people's inhibitions to purchasing new products. So that's why they use things like warranties, money-back guarantees, instructions, demonstrations, free samples. It's to stimulate the early adopters, which then serve as role models for the rest. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so managing products through the product life cycle. So if we were a product manager at a large consumer products company like Heinz, it would be our job to manage products through the life cycle. And there are four key things that these product managers do as part of their jobs. So firstly, they manage products through the product life cycle. And we'll come back to how they do that in just half a second here. Secondly, they develop new products. So maybe come up with organic ketchup as opposed to inorganic ketchup, I guess. I would think that ketchups are made. I would think that ketchup is made from tomatoes, and I would think that tomatoes are organic. But anyways, okay. So they manage the marketing program. So they develop new marketing programs. They approve advertising, selection of media, in charge of package design. And then finally, they kind of look at how successful the product is in the marketplace by analyzing sales and profitability data for their products that they're responsible for. Okay, so we said that the first thing that product managers do as part of the jobs is to manage products through the product lifecycle. And there are three things product managers can do. So one is they can modify the product. So they can add new features to the product or remove old features from the product. They can add they can modify the features to products to make the products more appealing to consumers. So I've got a couple examples of products acquiring new features. So the first example is quite recent, and it applies to a product. It's a product feature that actually doesn't exist in the market today. It's more of a conceptual. Product feature. But as you know, I always like to use Tesla as one of my poster childs of innovative businesses. And Tesla has these electric cars, and so Tesla's sort of moving towards having these autonomous vehicles that are self-driving vehicles. And so in late 2005, early 2006, Tesla said that it's going to add a summoning feature to its electric cars. So I think the example here is if you are in New York and your car's in Los Angeles, you can get on your smartphone, dial up your car, and then it'll drive itself across the country and pick you up in New York City. And that feature is not available today in Tesla vehicles, but that's a feature that they're trying to add by 2 years. Okay, so by 2018. So that's Tesla incorporating planning to incorporate a new product feature into its vehicles. Okay, so I have another example of a company changing a product feature as part of product management, and it's from Procter & Gamble. And so Procter & Gamble is one of the world's largest consumer products company. We all consume products made from Procter & Gamble, I'm sure, because they have so many brands. So a few years back, so this is 2005, so that's 5 years ago, Procter & Gamble used to sell liquid clothing detergent. And so they changed their packaging from the big bottles of liquid detergent into these pods. And these pods were a big innovation for Procter & Gamble. It was a big innovation because they said it was the biggest innovation Oh, I don't have it here. Anyways, it's the biggest product innovation that they've had for detergent in 25 years. And really what they did is they changed the packaging from these big bottles of liquid detergent into these little pods that dissolve in the laundry. Okay, so that's one thing that product managers can do to manage products through their product life cycles by modifying the product. Okay, so then a couple of other things they can do are trying to modify the market itself, and then thirdly is repositioning the product in the market. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go there, but just before we go there, I mean these slides aren't in a particularly the best order. So we said that part of the job of a product manager is to analyze sales and profitability data for their products and using that information to help make decisions regarding marketing programs and repositioning and so on. So there's a tool, there's a couple of tools that are mentioned in the book. One is called this Category Development Index, and then there's this Brand Development Index. And there's a bit of an illustration here on how it works. So you're a product manager, you're selling your product into the market, and you want to know what the prospects for your product are in the market. Is there more potential? Is there not so much potential? Should be closing down the product? And so we can collect some data and analyze it using this CDI tool, and this a Category Development Index and the Brand Development Index ratings to help us determine what we want to do with our product. So the Category Development Index, it's a number. Oops, it's a number. Well, this is all based on CDI and BDI. So we'll look at the Category Development Index first. So the rule is we're going to do a calculation, and if the CDI number is greater than 100, we're happy. And if it's less than 100, we're not so happy. And if the Brand Development Index figure is greater than 100, we're happy. And if it's less than 100, we're not happy. So how do you calculate these? So for the Category Development Index, so we have a market segment, and we estimate how many people are in that segment. So we come up with a number. Or we come up with a percentage of the population that's in that market segment. And then for the numerator, we calculate the percentage of category sales to that segment. And if the numerator divided by the denominator, if category sales are greater than the percentage of the population in that segment, then our number's over 100 and we're happy. We know that there's a strong demand for our product category. So that's like Procter & Gamble selling their detergent pods. So detergent pods, that would be the product category. And then the brand would be the Tide detergent pods. So to calculate the brand development index, it's the same kind of calculation as for the category. So we have the same denominator as for the category development index. So it's the percentage of the population in a particular market segment. And then we look to see how well the sales of our particular brand are in that segment. And when we divide the percentage of our brand sales divided by population in the segment, if that figure is greater than 100, we're happy. We know that we have a strong brand in that category. And if our figure is less than 100, then we know that our brand is not particularly strong. Anyways, this is a pretty sophisticated way of analyzing how successful our product is in the product class that it's competing in the market. Okay. So let's continue on with things that product managers can do as part of managing products through the product life cycle. So we've already looked at product modification, Tesla adding a summoning feature to its vehicle, or planning to, or Procter & Gamble changing its the packaging for its liquid detergent from bottle to pod. So other things that marketing managers can do is to modify the market or reposition the product in the market. Okay, so when we talk about modifying the market, there are several things that marketing managers can do. There's three things that they can do. They can A, try to find new users. So the book gives us some examples of these. The Ocean Spray cranberry juice folks, they started adding sugar to dried cranberries to sell as a health snack, and they call them craisins. So they're trying to find new users for cranberries. And then another example from the book is that I know you're familiar with is Harley-Davidson expanding their marketing to females to become new users of their product, because traditionally motorcycle riders have been men, but they figure, hey, half the population's women, they have money, why don't we try to market our products to them? Okay, so another way that the marketers can try to manage the product life cycle through modifying the market is trying to increase the use of the product in the market. And I think some examples in the book is Campbell Soup trying to promote their soups in the summertime, and orange juice producers trying to promote their product as a day-long drink rather than just a breakfast drink. And another example that I've come across that is a good example of increasing use is in the United States, and I'm not sure about Canada, but in the United States, some of the McDonald's restaurants have gone to serving or making their breakfast available all day long. And I think that's kind of like the orange juice example. They're trying to expand, they're trying to sell this breakfast product, sorry. They're trying to sell this breakfast product not just in the morning, but all day. If you want to have breakfast, at 10 o'clock at night, well, you can go to McDonald's and get whatever these breakfast menu items are. Anyway, so that's an example of increasing usage. And then the third example, I'm not going to change the slide here, but the third example is, or the third way marketers can modify the market is by creating new use situations. And so the example in the book is M&M's, instead of just selling the M&Ms as children's candy, they found that people were interested in putting them into cookies, into chocolate chip cookies. So you have these fancy little Smarties there instead of little hunks of chocolate. So I think another example of that, of finding a new use situation, again, it comes back to the breakfast market. There was an interesting article recently about breakfast consumption patterns changing in Canada quite dramatically in recent years, and the level of cereal consumed in Canada for breakfast has been in a long-term decline. But people are still eating breakfast, they're just not eating as much cereal. And so what's happened is these food products companies are coming up with these breakfast sandwiches. And so this is Kellogg's eggs and spinach cheese medley flatbread breakfast sandwich. So it's kind of like the McDonald's and their Egg McMuffins, which is a sandwich. Traditionally, sandwiches were, lunchtime kind of meals, and so companies are trying to push sandwiches into meals at other times of the day, namely breakfast. So I have the stats here for the breakfast sandwich market in Canada. So this is quite recent. This is January 2016. So here's number of breakfast sandwiches sold in Canada over the last 5 years. So 5 years ago it was 360 million breakfast sandwiches per year. And now it's up to 482. And I think the prediction for year 2016 is half a billion breakfast sandwiches per year in Canada. So this is the sandwich companies finding new use situations for sandwiches instead of having them just at lunch, they moved into the breakfast market as well. Okay, then the final thing that marketers can do um, to help manage products through the product life cycle is to reposition the product. I have to get my thing straight here, sorry. Is to reposition the product. And at the start of this chapter, I mentioned that brands mean something to consumers, and the meaning resides in the mind of consumers. So when marketers want to reposition an existing product in the market, they have to kind of change the meaning of the product to the consumer. And maybe the new meaning will make the product more appealing. So repositioning the product is changing the position the product occupies in the minds of consumers. And I have a little video in Moodle of an example of product repositioning. And so I suspect you're all familiar with this. This video, it's a commercial from McDonald's. And McDonald's a few years ago, they were trying to reposition their food in the minds of consumers from simply being a food product and sort of emphasizing the food product to the human feelings associated with McDonald's. And so there's a little video there about it's McDonald's I'm Loving It campaign, so I suspect you've probably seen it on TV. And there's a little bit of a news article. Well, it's an analysis article that goes with the video. So you should read the article if you watch that video. Okay, so what might motivate a company to want to reposition their product in the market? So it may be that competitors are kind of encroaching upon your turf, and so you need to respond. Or it may be that there's a new market niche, there's a new little niche trend, and you want to take advantage of that. So the book gives us an example of this. I think it's with Johnson & Johnson's children's aspirin. They repositioned the product so people wouldn't just think of it as a children's product, but they started marketing it towards adults that had health problems. And then I have a couple more examples here. Just hold on a second here. So another example of repositioning is Johnson & Johnson again. Originally, baby products, Johnson's baby oil was marketed towards for consumption by kids, babies. Okay, so this is the McDonald's repositioning. Baby oil was marketed towards parents to buy for their babies, and then Johnson & Johnson discovered that mothers actually were using it themselves. And so Johnson & Johnson started marketing baby oil towards adult use as well. The company helped adults realize that Johnson's baby products can meet the needs of adult skin too. Okay, and then I have another example of product repositioning, and that I know that you're probably familiar with, because you've probably seen it on TV, or you saw it on TV a few years ago. So, when I was your age, Old Spice products were pitched towards old guys. And a few years back, Old Spice decided to reposition their products towards younger males rather than older males. And they did it with this part of this video, the man your man could smell like campaign. Anyways, this is an example of repositioning the Old Spice products from older males to younger males, and I have the link to this video in Moodle if you haven't seen it. I suspect you have, because this is a little bit dated. But anyways, it's kind of a humorous ad. Okay, so let's just go back. Okay, so what are some other reasons why marketers might want to reposition their product? Okay, they're trying to catch a rise or a new trend in the market. And in recent years, there's been no end of companies trying to position their products as healthier products. And I remember a couple years ago, I had some Campbell's soup, some mushroom soup from Campbell's in my cupboard, and then I bought some new mushroom soup from the store from Campbell's, and I noticed that there was a new label on this new can, and the new label was emphasizing that mushrooms have a high level of vitamin D. And I compared these two labels. I mean, it's the same soup, but the new one emphasized vitamin D because we think that vitamins must be good for our health, but the old can did not have that. Did not have that. So there's Campbell Soup is trying to reposition their products to take advantage of our increasing health consciousness. Okay, and then sometimes companies reposition their products to make the product appear to have a different value proposition than the former product. And so sometimes they add features to the product and they make their product more expensive, so we sort of trade up. Some good examples of this, I think, from the book are clothing retailers starting to carry more prestigious brands. And I think they also say that, and I remember this, dog food companies a few years ago coming up with these premium brands, or premium flavors, or premium dog food that cost a whole lot more than regular dog food. But anyways, people want to spoil their pets because pets are the new kids, so people don't mind spoiling their pets. Okay, and then sometimes we have taking value away, so we trade down. So the company reduces some features from their product. And I remember a couple years ago when Apple came out with its first plastic iPhones, and they were quite a bit less expensive than the ones that were metal clad. But anyway, so that was Apple sort of trading down. And then we also have downsizing. So the downsizing is where the company reduces the size of the package, but they keep the price the same. And so some good examples of this are in the airline industry. It used to be when you flew, they would give you free food, free peanuts, and nowadays, geez, you're lucky if you get free water. On the old days, just a few years ago, if you flew on an airline, they used to have to try to encourage people to sit in the emergency row because you might have to use the emergency window. And then they realized that people actually wanted to sit in the emergency rows, at least tall people wanted to sit in the emergency row because there was more space for your legs. And so airlines, when they clued into that, they started charging a premium price to put you in the emergency row. But really, that's an example of downsizing because you get the same flight as before, but they're charging more for the same seat. Okay, and then another example is I remember, every now and then, companies go on these swings. A couple years ago, oil prices went up, and a bunch of companies started charging more for products because they added a fuel surcharge, or they started shrinking the packages, kept the price the same, but they shrunk the package, which was kind of like a hidden fuel surcharge. Anyways, it's an example of downsizing. Okay, so off we go next to branding. So branding. So, oops. Okay, so branding. So the concept of branding in marketing, it kind of comes from the concept of branding from the cattle industry. So we all know what brands in the cattle industry look like. The rancher has a design on a piece of metal. They heat the metal up. They burn the brand into the cow. So when the farmers put their cows in a common field with other farmers' cows, it's easy to distinguish them. And this concept of so the concept of branding is the marketers sort of searing a brand image for their product in our collective minds. And so, as we mentioned earlier, the brand is a feature of the product, but part of the feature is the meaning, and the meaning resides in our minds. And so marketers are concerned about or interested in creating the meaning attached to their brand icon or to their brand name in our minds, so that when we see the brand, so we'll become favorably disposed towards the brand. Anyways, so I just came across this interesting article. I think I posted it to Moodle. So if you're interested in reading it, you can. Okay, so branding. Okay, so it's the branding process is a company or an organization trying to associate its name or symbol with their product, and branding allows consumers to readily identify the product. So when they go shopping, you recognize a brand and you want to buy it because they've already created these favorable associations in your mind. And we can have brand names. So brand names, or they can be words, or they can be sounds, or they can be designs that help distinguish the product in the marketplace. So I know we're all familiar with the brand names. We have very many brand names in our economy, but I have some examples here. And the examples I have are companies that have updated their brands over the years. So these are so that we have some comparisons between the original brand and the updated brand. So there's the original Pepsi logo and the modern Pepsi logo. This is the Lipton tea, the original Lipton tea logo, pretty busy, versus the modern one. Goodyear tires, old and new. Cadbury chocolate, old and new. I got lots of these things. Some of them are kind of interesting. So BMW. Old and new, pretty well the same. Warner Brothers, updated Shell fuel, so Shell gas stations, old and new. Volkswagen, old and new. Anyway, so these are all brands. These are all brands. It's not a word. I mean, so this is sort of a word. That's sort of a word. These are just designs that we've had branded in our minds by the companies. Okay, so the NFL, old and new. 3M, so remember 3M is the company that makes the Post-it notes, for example. Wrigley's a gum, a Quaker Oats. Crest toothpaste, so they could have updated their image a while back. Burger King, we all recognize that one. McDonald's, we all recognize the big M. World Wildlife Foundation, they obviously updated their logo a number of years back. Okay, Heinz ketchup, from this logo to that logo. Nike, it's just Swoop. Apple Computer, I didn't even know that back in '76 that was Apple's logo, and then Google updated their logo in 2015. Okay, and then we have a trademark. So trademark is a legal name that a company uses it's a legally registered name that the company uses to identify itself in the marketplace. And I came across a list of a bunch of trademark names that are used as names for the generic product. And I have to admit, I wasn't even aware of half these, but it's actually kind of interesting. So, I mean, how many people knew that the word jet ski is actually a trademark, or the word bubble wrap is actually a trademark owned by the Sealed Air Corporation? Or onesies, I think those are the one-piece pajamas for kids. That's a trademark name. Jacuzzi is a trademark name. Crock-Pot. Fluffernutter, I think it's marshmallow peanut butter. I don't know. Seeing Eye, the Seeing Eye dogs. We say there's a dog for blind people. That is a trademark name. Breathalyzer, Zamboni, Chapstick, Kleenex, Ping Pong. Believe it or not, Ping Pong is a trademark. Popsicle, believe it or not. Unilever is a big consumer products company like Procter & Gamble. Unilever makes Dove soap. So women might be familiar with that one. Q-tips, rollerblades, Scotch tape, Sharpie. You know the little pens with the sharp Magic markers with a strong point. Realtor, believe it or not, people that sell real estate, that is a trademark name. It's owned by the National Association of Realtors in the States. So Tupperware Weed Eater, believe it or not, it's owned by the Husqvarna Company. Whiteout Band-Aids, Taser, Exacto Knife, Dumpster, believe it or not, Novocaine. Xerox Post-it-Notes, so there's 3M Company Ouija board. Plexiglass, Styrofoam, believe it or not, Formica, Frisbee. Hula Hoop is a trademark name. Windbreaker, Stetson, I can believe Stetson. PowerPoint, it's owned by Microsoft. Google, Google is owned by Google. So these are names for products that we just think they're part of their ordinary product classes, but actually these are actually owned by companies or people. Okay, and then we can sometimes have trademark infringements. This is where somebody steals or copies the trademark of another and sells counterfeit products. Okay, so then we have the concept of brand personality. So brand personality means the product acquires some kind of human characteristics. So these human characteristics get associated with the brand through the marketing efforts, and then people want to have those human characteristics in themselves, and the way they do that is by buying a product, and they think that that makes them become that type of person. So I have some examples of some different types of brand personalities here. Oh my goodness. Oops. So much stuff. So this they're kind of fun. I think they're kind of fun. Oops. So brand personalities. Oh, okay. Oops. Okay, so we have the purist personality, and so companies that sort of market themselves as having a pure image are companies like Dove Soap, Disney, and Sesame Street. And then there's the sort of the pioneering image. And companies that use that personality in their products are companies like Jeep, I think that's what that is. The Discovery Channel, I'm going to skip the source. The Conqueror sort of personality, so we know Nike does that. It says Nike and Weight Watchers. So I have to admit I'm not familiar with Weight Watchers myself. Okay, so then we have Rebels, okay, as we would guess. Harley Davidson, Red Bull, World Wrestling Entertainment, Wizard, Personality Wizard, Pixar. Okay, I don't really get that one. Straight Shooter, I really don't get that one either because I haven't been in the States enough, so I'm guessing that EasyJet is an American airline. I'm not familiar with it. Okay, so the seducer sort of personality. And so, as you would guess, Victoria's Secrets is kind of creates that image, or kind of thrives in that personality, or tries to get its shoppers to want to have that kind of personality. Entertainer, so Dr. Pepper, oh, M&M's. Protector, okay, so Johnson & Johnson, the big pharmaceutical company, consumer products pharmaceutical company, so it says Johnson & Johnson, Campbell's Soup, soups, family household soups. Imagineer, okay, I'm not really sure what that means, but it says Lego on YouTube. Oh, Emperor, so conquerors kind of people, so Rolex watches. Anyway, so companies are trying to infuse their brands with these human personalities, and then they try to appeal to people to buy them who want to have that sort of image about themselves. Okay. Oops. Okay. So then we have the concept of brand equity. So brand equity means that the brand has a financial value above and beyond the functional value of the product. So you go shopping for bananas, and you've got a Chiquita banana, and you've got a no-name banana here, and you're willing to pay a little bit more for the Chiquita banana because you want to buy that particular brand. So Chiquita can sell its bananas a little bit more expensively than the no-name bananas. So the brand equity gives the company a bit of a competitive advantage in the market because their brand is easily recognized and people are willing to buy it and pay a premium price for it. And we said before that the meaning of the brand resides in the minds of the consumer. And so the meaning is a product of the branding efforts, of the marketing activities of the company. So there's a process that companies use to try to create that brand and brand equity. So what do? At first they try to create awareness for the brand. And the awareness has two, so that's brand salience. So salience means meaning. So they try to make the brand meaningful to consumers. And there's two aspects of that. One's the usefulness or the function of the brand, and the other is the image of the brand, so sort of the personality side. And then they try to affix the brand to our minds. So they try to put the meaning. Oops. Sorry, I kind of had that wrong. So this is the meaning. First they create the awareness, then they try to infuse the meaning in the mind of the consumers, and the meaning has two aspects. One is sort of the image, the personality, and the other is the functional aspects of the product. And then they try to associate the brand with positive feelings. So when consumers go out shopping, they recognize the brand, it makes them favorably disposed towards that particular brand. And then finally, they try to create this loyalty. I forgot to mention in that initial comments I made about the analogy between product branding and cattle branding. When cattle were originally branded back in the 1800s in the United States, the cowboys felt loyalty towards the brands of their employer. And so that concept of loyalty towards brands, it's not just a product of product marketing, but it actually ties back to cattle branding from a couple hundred years ago. Okay. So there's this a process that marketers use to try to create brand equity and brand recognition in the minds of consumers. Okay. Sorry. Oh, I see. I am getting mixed up here. Okay. So I guess I'm stuff on the wrong slide. Okay, so we said that brand equity is the financial value of a brand above and beyond its functional value. And but when we talk about the concept of brand equity, even though we recognize that certain brands have value to them, I mean, just imagine the value associated with the Disney brand. If they want to come up with a line of food or clothing or something, and you recognize Disney, then you might be favorably disposed toward buying it just because it's Disney and you recognize it. But even though we may say that brand equity means that the brand has more financial value than simply its functional value, that does not mean that it's easy to establish what that value is in a precise manner. We just know that it's worth more or worth less, but it's not an easy process to do. And then we have the concept of brand licensing, where you have one company that has an established brand, and then there's someone else who effectively rents the brand and pays a licensing fee to the established brand so that the licensee kind of piggybacks off the brand equity established by the original brand holder. And so there's some examples in the book there of Disney sort of licensing its brands to toy manufacturers, or you may have seen Harley-Davidson. There's a Harley-Davidson pickups they're actually not. I think they're I think they're Ford vehicles, but they've licensed the Harley Davidson brand for that particular line. Okay, okay. Okay, so picking brand names. So, I mean, this is another specialized field in marketing is coming up with good, effective product names. And so the authors kind of have a set of criteria. They say that, good names for branded products are names that suggest the product benefits. And the example from the book is the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. So obviously we can kind of figure out that these little chocolate treats have peanut butter in them. The name should be memorable, positive, uh, with positive connotations. The name should sort of fit the company's image, and I think the book tells us pharmaceutical companies come up with these scientific sounding names for new medicines just because we think it's better for us if it sounds scientific. And then batteries having names that kind of suggest that the batteries last a long time, like Duracell or Eveready. And then, of course, your name can't have any regulatory restrictions, so you can't infringe upon the trademarks of other companies. And ideally, the name of the product would be simple, so it's kind of easy to remember. But I have to admit, I'm not really convinced about that one, because there's that in American popcorn, I think it's called Redenbacher, which is not a simple name, simple word, but I have to admit it is distinctive. So it's not short, but it is distinctive. Okay, so the next little section looks at these different branding strategies that companies can use. And the first one is multi-product branding. So multi-product branding, otherwise known as family branding, is where the single company uses the same company name across different product classes. And so some of the brand equity from existing products kind of rubs off on the other products in the line. So a good example of that is Campbell's Soup. They probably have several dozen flavors of soup, but they're all called Campbell's Soup. They don't have a separate brand for mushroom soup and a different name for tomato soup and a different name for pea soup and whatnot. It's all Campbell's Soups. So there's some positive and negative aspects of using multi-product branding. Obviously, or intuitively, promotion costs are going to be lower because if Campbell's is using the one brand of Campbell's across these two dozen soup flavors, they only have to get the market to recognize the one name, Campbell's. So there's lower promotion costs, and then there's the concept of a sub-branding. So this is where companies like Apple, it's kind of like Campbell Soup. They extend the parent name to the new product. So you've got the Apple iPod, the Apple iPhone, the Apple iWatch. You're going to have the Apple iVehicle here in a couple of years. Some drawback of using multi-product branding is diluting the brand name. And I think a good example of that is the Harley Davidson. I mean, Harley Davidson, we all know that it means motorcycles, but if they start calling vehicles Harley Davidson branded vehicles, I don't know if that's how many people are going to recognize Harley Davidson vehicles in the long run. Okay, and then we also have the another flavor of multi-product branding is co-branding, where so two companies kind of combine their brands into a single product. And we see this with the Petro-Canada gas stations with NE&W on the side, or Air Miles. Air Miles kind of teams up with everybody in the co-branding activities. Okay, then we have multi-branding. So this is giving each product or each product line its own distinct brand name. And so a good example from the book, maybe guys recognize it a bit more than girls, but it's It's a Black & Decker. So in the consumer market, or the household market, they market their products as Black & Decker. But Black & Decker also makes tools for professional contractors and carpenters, and they use the DeWalt name. It's the same company. Black & Decker owns both brands. They simply use a different brand name in different products. So this is a multi-branding strategy. And then another example of this that I think the book also mentions is sometimes these big hotel chains have several different hotel chains that are targeted towards different segments in the market. And actually, most of the big hotel chains do this. And so an example is Marriott Hotels. So Marriott Hotels, they have some luxury brands. So the Ritz-Carlton, for example. Then they have some limited service hotels. So Courtyard, Springhill Estates, Fairfield Inns and Suites, Protejo, I haven't heard that one. And then they have some hotel chains that sort of specialize in long-term clients, so the Residence, Town Place, and Marriott Executive Apartments. So it's the same company that has multiple different brands for the different niches they're trying to serve. And then sort of a subcomponent of multi-branding is the concept of fighting brands. So sometimes you've got a market, you've got a couple players in the market, and then someone else enters the market and at a lower price point. So one of the original companies will come up with another brand at that different price point to compete against this newcomer to the market. So a good example of that is 3M. You know that 3M makes those Post-it notes, and actually that's the example that I have. So I went to Staples, online Staples, so we have the Post-it notes. And so Post-it notes is made by 3M. And so look at this. These little 3-inch by 5-inch Post-it notes, 12 pads in a pack, they cost $29. And then there's another package of self-stick notes, same size, 3 by 5 inches, 12 pads per pack, that sells for about half the price, $15.36. But you notice this says this one's Post-it and this one's Highland. Well, I can tell you, Highland and Post-it are both 3M. They're both the same company. This product is, quote unquote, inferior because this product, the tackiness on the notes isn't as strong as it is for the Post-its. But anyways, you get the same quantity, you get inferior quality, but you get the same quantity. And so this is 3M. They came up with this fighting brand, the Highland self-stick notes, to compete against other sticky note manufacturers that were competing against Post-it. So really, 3M is kind of competing against itself here, but really, this is the Highland brand is fighting against the other stationery companies that came out with sticky notes. Okay. Oops. Okay. So another branding strategy is it has a number of names. Private branding. It's sometimes called a white label brands. So what it is a so the best example of the private branding, or the private label brand, or the white label brand, probably the best example for Canadians is Loblaws and President's Choice. So Loblaws has a number of food brands that are actually Loblaws brands. So Loblaws is the food retailer, and they sell products from Kraft and Hershey's and whatever those other food companies are. And then so Loblaws went out and they went to the food manufacturers and says, hey, could you make us our own brand of cookies? We want to compete against Dare. Can you create our own flavors of salad dressing because we want to compete against Kraft. And so they called them President's Choice. So President's Choice is a private brand. It's owned by Loblaws. They're only sold in Loblaws stores or subsidiaries, like No Frills is a Loblaws brand, to compete against the Crafts of the world, or the Dare cookies, or the whoever makes those other products. And so Loblaws has President's Choice. Sobeys has the Compliments, private label brand. Sears, we're all familiar with Sears. So Sears owns the Kenmore brand. So when you see a Kenmore stove or fridge, it's actually Sears. It's their private label brand to sell stuff under their own name. Okay, and then we also have mixed branding. So it can be the same company that sells some products under its own name and some products under someone else's name. So one example from the book is Michelin Tires. Michelin produces vehicle tires. They put their own name on them. And then they do some contract manufacturing for Sears. So the Sears tires are also made by Michelin. They're just called Sears because they're selling to different price points in the market. And then the other example is in the book, I think it's Elizabeth Arden selling skin products under its own name. And then they also manufacture other products under a different name that gets sold through Walmart. So Walmart's more of a value-conscious retailer than where Elizabeth Arden would normally sell stuff. And I have to admit, I'm not familiar with Elizabeth Arden. Okay, and then there's another one the book mentions. It's a cohort branding. So this is where multiple brands get marketed under a common name. And the best example of that I think that we could ever find would be from Procter & Gamble. So I went to their website and came up with an example of cohort branding. So here's a number of Procter & Gamble brands. So they make, well, I can't even see these things, but they make Tide soap, they make Bounty paper towels. I don't know what that says. Pampers diapers, Crest toothpaste, Duracell batteries. I think that says Gillette razors. Oh, the Iams dog food, Downy detergent. So Downy's competing against Tide, presumably. Charmin toilet paper, Pringles chips. Didn't know that one. Braun. Can't read some of the stuff. Anyways, so here's an example of Procter & Gamble kind of promoting its whole, well, not all of it, but some of its family of brands all on the same website. Okay, so one final section to go. Packaging and labeling. Packaging and labeling. Okay, so we know that packaging is the container that contains the product, and the package contains labeling information. And we know that labeling information contains things like the product name, who the manufacturer is, what the contents are, where it's made. Don't need to see any examples of labels. And so we know that there's some benefits to consumers from packaging and labeling. It's not just a waste of packaging material, but there's a communication function. So you might have some use instructions or some content instructions. If you're buying food, you might have certain food allergies, or maybe you're buying food and you're on a diet and you want to stay away from high salt foods or high fat foods or something. So the label helps us understand what the contents are. There's also functional benefits associated with packaging. So the package helps us store the food. So boxes of cereal, they're flat on top, so you can stack them easily. So that's a storage function. The packages are often of a convenient size, or in the old days, ketchup used to come in a glass bottle, but now it comes in plastic bottles. Well, so there's a functional benefit to a plastic bottle because you can squeeze it as opposed to hitting the little glass bottles. Okay, so the package also protects the product, from exposure to the air. It kind of maintains our product quality. And then there's also some perceptual benefits to the package and label. It helps us with brand recognition, helps kind of make the product distinctive. So when you're shopping, it's easy to find. So I have something interesting here. I think it's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to skip over a few slides here. Oops. Okay. So the authors say, certain challenges to marketers relating to packaging and labeling, and they say one of the challenges of packaging is having packaging that appeals to consumers, so that somehow connects with them. And the author suggests that marketers have to kind of keep their packaging up to date in order to maintain that connection with consumers. And the connection is not simply an aesthetic function, but it's sort of the brand function. So I came across an example of a company that tried to update its packaging, and it spent $50 million doing this, and they completely failed. And what's amazing about this is that the company is owned by Pepsi. And Pepsi is one of the world's largest consumer products companies. Pepsi, Frito-Lay's is a Pepsi brand. Quaker Oats is a Pepsi brand as well. Anyways, the brand that I'm talking about is Tropicana Orange Juice. Tropicana, I can't spell it. Tropicana Orange Juice. So a few years ago, they tried to revamp, modernize their packaging, and they went out and spent $30 million to redesign this package and to market it, and it completely failed. It's hard to believe, but this is the original Tropicana package. It was one of those Tetra Pak kind of things, and the logo was this orange with a straw through it, and the name was horizontal, and the little opening thing was just a flat button. And then they changed, so they kept the carton pretty well the same, but they changed the button to this, or to the cap to this more orangey looking thing. And instead of having a picture of an orange with the straw through it, they showed a picture of a glass of orange juice. They showed what's inside the orange rather than what's outside the orange. And they changed the position of the name from horizontal to vertical. So this happened in 2009. So believe it or not, they came up with this new packaging in early January 2009. And by the end of February, so less than 2 months later, they scratched this new package because it was a miserable flop in the market, and they went back to the original. So even though they were trying to update their packaging to connect with the consumers, it failed, and they lost so much money. What happened was people didn't recognize the brand anymore. People were so accustomed to this orange with a straw through it and the name that they could easily read. When the name got turned sideways and there was no longer a picture of an orange with a straw through it, people didn't know what brand it was. And so they just didn't buy it. They just didn't buy it. And so they lost about $15 million in sales. So here's the story. So they spent $35 million to design the package and to promote it. They launched it on January the 8th, 2009. A couple days later, people started complaining about the new packaging. Within 2 months, sales had dropped by 20%. So they lost $30 million in sales. So actually 35 plus 30, we're already up to $65 million right there. Competitors kind of took advantage of it. By February 23rd, so less than 2 months later, Tropicana announced it was going to return to its original packaging, and in total, Tropicana blew, in less than 2 months, they blew $50 million. And remember, Tropicana is owned by Pepsi. Professional marketers, top to bottom. So what's the problem? Well, people didn't recognize the new logo. They didn't recognize the logo. They recognized this, but the new package had a picture of a glass of orange juice, so they kind of blew the logo. And the name, people got confused by the name. They knew that, okay, Tropicana, we could easily read it this way. So what's this sideway nonsense? So what happened was people couldn't recognize the brand anymore. And what Tropicana realized is that consumers had a quote-unquote emotional bond with the brand, and then they get jilted by this new package, and so consumers dropped it like a hot potato. Oops. Okay, so what's the lesson from packaging? What's the lesson from packaging? Consumers feel an emotional brand with the appearance of the product and the brand they love. If you're going to change some features of your packaging, don't make lots of changes all at the same time. Maybe do them gradually. And what they realize is that packaging is a key component of promotion. It's more of a subtle aspect than advertising, but it's part of the promotional package. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. Let's go back to there. Okay. So when we're talking about packaging, we know that packaging consumes materials. It creates weight. It's costly to truck stuff or to transport stuff, and so part of the issues concerning packaging is reducing the impact on the environment by having too much packaging. And so a few years ago, Walmart, the world's largest department store, said that they were going to reduce their packaging across their whole system by at least 5%. And they made that promise in 2007, and they succeeded. So I just have some information about that because it's kind of a fascinating thing. I mean, Walmart's a big company, so it's kind of fascinating what Walmart does. So in 2007, Walmart promised to reduce its packaging by 5% by 2015, within 5 years, and they were successful. So what did they do? In their packaged salad, these are just some examples of things they used to reduce packaging. They reduced the plastic resin by about 40%. I think they made the plastic thinner. So they eliminated 1.2 million pounds of plastic film, I guess that's per year. For bottled sauces, they made the containers lighter. I don't know if it's glass or plastic, maybe it's a bit of both. So that helps improve their shipping efficiency. With dairy products, they reduced the amount of wood fiber in the corrugated shipping cases. So they must have had like wooden pallets. So they must have, I don't know what they did, used plastic instead of wood. Processed meat eliminated 26% of the corrugated. Oh, that must be, maybe that's the styrofoam. I'm going to guess that's what that is. In shipping line of processed meats by redesigning the shape and style of the box. So they reduced their greenhouse gases by an average of 9.8% in American stores, 9.1% in Sam's Clubs, and 16% in the Walmart Canadian stores. So they were concerned about the environment. It was environmental sensitivity is a big consumer issue, and Walmart took the lead in making a contribution to reducing the carbon footprint of their operations. Okay, and then we have another issue related to packaging is health concerns, and so we're all familiar with those child-proof lighters and child-proof containers for stuff. you know, whether it's medicines or those bottles that you have to push down and twist at the same time. I have problems with those sometimes. Okay, and then another issue relating to packaging is the cost. If they can find ways to, like Walmart, if they can find ways to reduce the amount of packaging, then that's going to save on costs, not only production costs, but also transportation costs, because packaging adds to weight. Okay, then the final aspect of packaging labeling concerns warranties. So warranties are part of the product P. They're part of the product features, even though it's kind of an intangible thing. So warranties is when the manufacturer indicates the extent of its liability for product deficiencies, and you'll know from a law class that warranties are really a form of exclusion clause in a contract rather than a promise. It's reducing their liability rather than taking on liability. So we have different types of types of warranties. We can have limited coverage warranties. So the manufacturer says, hey, there's a warranty in our product, but only for 30 days, or it's only for certain things. You know, in your vehicle, you have different warranties of different lengths for different periods of time, depending on different parts of the car. We can have full warranty, which means that there's kind of like an unlimited coverage. And then sometimes we have implied warranties. So there's the manufacturer itself doesn't make any warranty promises, but there's implied warranties under the law. So from law class, the Sales of Goods Act implies a number of warranties for goods that are sold. So for example, if you're selling goods, they have to be of merchantable quality, and that's an implied warranty. Okay, so that's it for chapter. Whatever chapter this is, it chapter 11? So that's it for chapter 11. I mean, brands and branding and product management is kind of an interesting topic. It's a very sophisticated area of marketing and not always easy to do. I mean, we just saw that example of Pepsi or Tropicana failing in changing the product design through its packaging. So if Pepsi can make a $50 million mistake, you can be sure that marketing is a challenge, or can be a challenge, even though it's interesting. Okay, so that's it for chapter 11, and we'll see you next time for chapter, I think it's, it's after pricing next time, chapter 13. Talk to you later.